Please rise for a flag salute and a moment of silence. To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Muroz?
Present.
Commissioner Pollock-Rude? Present. Commissioner Circo?
Present.
Commissioner Sotile?
Present.
And Commissioner Valles?
Present.
Thank you. Welcome to the El Cajon Planning Commission meeting. This meeting is being live streamed on the City of El Cajon website. Appeals of final decisions of the Planning Commission may be made this evening, but must be filed in writing with the City Clerk before 5 p.m., October 17th, 2022, and must include the payment of a filing fee. If you wish to speak on either a non-agenda or agenda item tonight, please fill out a request to speak card located by the agenda and turn it in to the secretary, who will call you up to speak when the agenda item comes up for public comment. We ask you give us your name, spelling of your last name. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. The display on the podium, as well as other monitors in the chamber, will show time counting down. At 30 seconds, the podium clock readout will turn red, signifying you have 30 seconds until the end of your time. Applicants and individuals representing groups of people may be allowed more time if appropriate. All public hearing comments should be addressed to me as the chair and not to the individual commissioners or to staff members. Please turn off all electronic devices if you had not done so. Pursuant to City Council Resolution 114-79, a commissioner who has received evidence related to a matter before the Planning Commission, other than an unescorted view of the subject property, is required to disclose such information at the hearing. At this time, we will take comments from any member of the public on the public comment of any item of business within the jurisdiction of the Commission that is not on the agenda. Under state law, no action can be made or taken up on items brought before under public comment except to refer it to staff for administration or place it on a future agenda. If there's anyone who wishes to address the Commission under public comment, please come forward now. All right, seeing that there is none, we will move to the consent calendar. Is there any items that staff wishes to pull on the consent calendar?
No changes from staff.
Okay. Fellow commissioners, any items?
No. Nope.
Okay. And then a motion.
I'll move to adopt the minutes as recorded.
I'll second.
All right. Motion made by Commissioner Circo, second by Commissioner Valles. Please vote.
Commissioner Pollock-Rude, can you enter your vote, please? And motion carries by unanimous vote.
Great. Thank you. All right. We will move on to the next agenda item. And that is going to be agenda item number 2. This is appeals of a director's determination, Aldi store. The request is finding of public convenience or necessity for an off-sale alcohol license. It is CEQA exempt, and staff's recommendation is deny. Staff?
Great. Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. So again, item number 2 for your consideration is an appeal of a director's determination, and that is in regards to off-sale alcohol for an Aldi grocery store. So this item was originally scheduled for the September 20th Planning Commission meeting, but the hearing was continued to tonight at the request of the applicant. So the store is located at 123 Fletcher Parkway on the eastern side of Parkway Plaza next to Best Buy. The store is under construction, and Aldi plans to proceed with construction while their request for alcohol sales is processed. I also want to highlight on this slide, we've identified other off-sale alcohol outlets in the vicinity of the subject site, which include Walmart at Parkway Plaza, Smart & Final to the west, and then Target and Food for Less to the east. So for background, State Alcoholic Beverage Control, or ABC, does have a moratorium on the issuance of new off-sale alcohol licenses in the city because the ratio of off-sale licenses exceeds one license per 2,500 inhabitants of the city. However, there's a nuance here, and that is that ABC staff have interpreted that the moratorium only applies to new applications. Therefore, a transfer of a license from outside the city to a location within the city doesn't fall under that moratorium. The second aspect of the background is the deemed approved alcohol sales ordinance, which also applies to this request, and that was approved by the City Council back in 2013. The ordinance indicates that a conditional use permit is not required for grocery stores that are greater than 10,000 square feet in floor area, with less than 10% of floor area allocated to alcohol display, and also that new stores need to be located in a census tract with capacity for licenses with low to average crime rates, and that the new store must acquire an existing off-sale license from an overconcentrated census tract in the city and relocate that license or eliminate another license. So looking back at what happened in the past, essentially the goal of the City Council in 2013 was either to reduce or to not increase the number of licenses within the city, but to give flexibility to allow licenses to be moved to meet the demand of the public. So the applicant's request is shown here. The Aldi store is approximately 24,000 square feet and includes less than 10% of the floor area for alcohol sales. So in compliance with that first aspect of not requiring a conditional use permit. Their request also includes crime prevention measures, such as the location of alcohol within the store, exterior lighting, and other measures that I believe the applicant will present. And then lastly, the applicant is proposing to transfer a license from San Mateo County, so outside of the County of San Diego, into the City of El Cajon. So here we have the ABC license and crime data. So the data regarding the number of alcohol, license, and crime comes directly from ABC, and it's included as an attachment to the report. The site is located within a census tract that has 11 off-sale alcohol licenses, and according to ABC regulations based on population, no more than 2 licenses are allowed within that census tract. So the existing census tract is over-concentrated. For the crime data, the average number of crimes per district in the city is 164 crimes, and the subject site is located within a district that had 882 offenses. So that equates to a very high crime rate, more than 500% higher than the citywide average. So again, this was an appeal of the director's determination, and so what this slide shows is what the director determined in conjunction with the applicant's request. So the applicant's proposal to relocate a license from San Mateo County to the city did not comply with the municipal code requirements to relocate a license from an over-concentrated census tract elsewhere in the city. Additionally, the finding was that the subject site is in an over-concentrated census tract, as we discussed on the last slide. And then also that the crime rate for the subject site is in the very high crime rate category. So based on these findings, the request was denied by the director. So the applicant's appeal just indicated an appeal and didn't provide any additional information as it related to the director's determination. So staff's recommendation is to deny the appeal of the Community Development Director's determination. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you. A couple questions I have for staff. On the statistics that you guys were given, what year were those crime statistics? How current are they?
The crime statistics are from 2020.
Okay.
And no new data has been provided to the ABC. And so one of the issues I asked multiple times for the crime data, I talked to the police department about the crime data. The issue is that the data gets reported regionally, and then it gets reported to the ABC. And so the ABC has to use the last annual year of crime data that's available. So that's why I referenced in the presentation the actual form produced by ABC, which cites those crime statistics so that they're accurately calculated and portrayed fairly across the whole region.
Do they give you a breakdown on how many are alcohol related by chance? Do they give us any kind of breakdown? I'm just curious.
Don't.
Okay, great. And then the other question, for the other stores that are in the area, how many of those are type 20 versus type, I think 21 is hard alcohol? Mm-hmm. So who currently is, out of those other highlighted stores, who's just selling beer and wine, and then who's selling the whole kit and caboodle?
Sure. If you just give me 1 second.
Okay.
In the attachments, we included the list of all the ABC licenses within the census tract, and I can give you those in 1 second.
I think Smart and Final's everything, if I remember correctly. I don't know about Walmart. And
Smart and Final is a Type 21.
okay,
CVS at 572 Fletcher Parkway, which I didn't highlight on the slide, is also a Type 21.
okay,
Walmart is a Type 20.
okay.
Yes.
And Target?
Smart and Final is a Type 21. And then
Yeah, I believe you're right. I think Target's type 20, and I don't know what Food for Less is though.
Oh, I apologize. I don't have the license types because both Target and Food for Less are actually outside of the subject census tract, so that
Okay.
wasn't included in the attachment.
Okay, thank you for that. Great. All right. Well, any other questions for staff?
Yes. You said that there's 11 licenses to sell alcohol within this tract, and it's only allowed 2. How did that occur to go up to 11? Did it originally start with 11 and remain at 11, or has it increased as time went on?
It obviously increased, so the alcohol licenses were established before this moratorium was in place, and it was also those licenses were approved before that regulation occurred. I think the critical time period here is looking back at when council acted on the deemed approved alcohol sales ordinance in 2013. Since that time, we haven't had any new licenses that have been issued in the city.
Yeah. Okay.
And are there any mom and pop stores that have the type 20 or 21 license in the community? I didn't see any individually owned instead of a corporate owned.
I would highlight there's the Arnell liquor store, which is to the west of Walmart across the street on Johnson in the corner complex there where the dentist office is in the strip mall. So that's it's listed as Arnell Liquor Incorporated. I don't have their ownership information, but that's probably better characterized as something that's not a corporate entity.
Smaller, just primarily a liquor store with supplemental other items. Okay.
Great.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? All right. Well, at this time, let's go ahead and open up public hearing. Do we have speaker cards?
Yes, we have Skip Janes.
Okay. How do you spell your last name?
I'm sorry, it's J-A-N as in Nancy, E-S.
Janes. Got it. Okay.
Or sometimes it's James, sometimes it's Jones. Go by a lot. All right. Chairman Rose, members of the Planning Commission, city staff, and the citizens of El Cajon, we appreciate you having us here this evening to give you the Aldi case. We fully understand the value of the ordinance that was created in 2013. And we fully understand all the rules and regulations that go along with that.
Great. Why don't you move that mic a little closer to you and make it easier
How's
for
that?
us?
That better?
Much, 100%.
All right, good. Usually I have the other problem where they tell me to shut up a little bit. Once again, my name is Skip Janes. I've been with Aldi about 33 years, and most of that in the Midwest. In the last 10 years, I've been in California. My territory is San Diego County and Riverside County, and then there's 2 or 3 other people in the office like me that handle the other 7 or 8 counties of Southern California. Patrick is here with me. He's going to run the machine here, and Doug is one of our consultants as well, and we'll all answer the questions at the end that you might have. So like I said, we fully understand Mr. Alvey's been extremely helpful explaining everything to us. And the whole city staff of El Cajon, we commend them for all their efforts to help us with the development process, from the initial planning review of our elevations to the building department and getting our building permit and getting going. So we certainly appreciate everybody's efforts. The reason we are here tonight is basically to inform you about Aldi, and then also to see if you can consider the decision that the director has made to deny the PCN request, and allow Aldi, the PCN, to get their Type 20 beer and wine license. Before I get too deep into that, I'll just give you some facts about Aldi. We have about 2,240 stores nationwide. 91 of those stores are in California. All 91 do have either a Type 20 or Type 21. Sometimes the Type 20s aren't available to purchase, so we move up and buy the Type 21, but we don't carry any hard alcohol. Aldi's really a simple concept, guys. We provide the best quality product we can possibly provide the customer at the lowest possible price. Our model is very simple, as I said. Our goal is to control costs and pass whatever costs we control to savings to the customer. We carry about 1,700 items in an Aldi store, and they are the most commonly purchased items in a household of the most commonly purchased size. In that mix, you're going to find fresh produce, you're going to find fresh meat, you're going to find a great bakery section, along with our dry grocery and cooler and freezer. And then in most stores, you're going to find about 125 different bottles of wine and about a dozen beers or so. And you also find, I'm sorry, this is exciting this time of the year. You also find in the center store our Aldi Finds section, which is a mix of products that are seasonal and very popular for the day. I don't know if you've seen our ads here, or maybe it's coming up shortly, but we carry advent calendars that have different wines from throughout countries in Europe. We carry one for beer, one for wine, one for chocolate, one for toys, the whole nine. So that's kind of the center aisle. We call it the treasure field part of the store. So you never know what you're going to find. We advertise out 2 weeks for it, so people get in line on Wednesday morning to come and shop the Aldi Finds section. So pretty popular section. We do all that in about 20 to 22,000 square feet. The store is just a little bit bigger because that's how big the Office Depot space was. It's a 5-aisle store, very easy to navigate, very easy to shop, and a quick in and out. In the last 4, 5, 6 years, we've also added, as every other retailer has, the e-commerce options of curbside pickup and delivery. To assist you with making your decision this evening, if you don't mind, I'd like to read some things I've pointed out to myself that maybe help you make your decision to allow Aldi the PCN request. Number one, we have a limited beer and wine selection, as I said, about 125 bottles of wine and a dozen beers. Wine is sold by the bottle, and beer is sold by the typical 4, 6, 8, 12-pack, however it's carried. No individual beers are sold. The wine and beer section is about 32 lineal feet of the store, of the shelving, and our total is about 800. So if you multiply that out, that's about 4% of the lineal feet of the shelving is dedicated to beer and wine. The beer and wine selection is located at the front of the store. Patrick, if you can mind pulling that up. At the front of the store. So you can see the checkouts there at the front, and the red is the beer and wine sections, immediately in front of the checkouts. So monitored by the cashiers and the front-end personnel. We have a CCTV camera system with 34 cameras, all of them operating 24/7, and of course monitoring also the beer and wine section. We have a single point of entry at the front of the store. So that's the point of entry and the point of egress. And of course we have the required emergency exits throughout the store, but that's the only way in and way out mainly for customers, except for emergency. We have very few promotions for beer and wine in store. You might see 1 or 2 bottles in our ad, 1 or 2 beers in our ad, depending on, the Oktoberfest, that sort of thing, or Cinco de Mayo. We might advertise a little bit, but in-store, you're not going to see the massive Super Bowl displays or the massive NFL playoffs or anything like that where they've got beer as you come in the store hitting you right in the face. So you're not going to see that in an Aldi store. This location in particular, as Mr. Albee pointed out, is surrounded by commercial. Tons of restaurants, tons of office complexes, hotel, I think, here and there, and tons of retailers. The granting of this PCN will also allow the following. It'll make all Aldi products available to all customers. So if we do happen to run something in an ad and they come in for it and they don't find it, they get disappointed. So they may travel 3 or 3.5 miles away to go to our San Carlos store. It saves them additional time and money, so they don't have to go to another store to find what they're looking for, or buy a nice table wine to complement their dinner for the evening. And as we know, with gas prices and inflation, everybody's budget's squeezed, and every penny counts. Additionally, we allow. This will allow Aldi to fairly compete with the retailers that were mentioned earlier, the competitors. The PR people say don't ever mention a competitor in public, so I'll just say competitors. Finally, we have attempted to purchase a Type 20 license. We've actually went out as far as to if we can purchase a Type 21 license, which is usually double the price of a Type 20, and we've been looking for that for like a year and a half. So we've come up empty. And to the best of our research tells us, no Type 20s have changed hands in this census tract since the ordinance went in place in 2013. In summary, we are excited to become a part of the El Cajon community and to bring our concept to the customers here. We are excited to participate in the revitalization or rejuvenation, however you want to term it, of Parkway Plaza. I think that's a good central point for the city of El Cajon. I believe you've probably seen our construction going on in the last couple of months, and I can promise you, when that thing's done, it'll be beautiful inside and out. And we're obviously making a significant investment in the community. We ask that you reconsider the director's decision and grant Aldi a PCN for the Type 20 beer and wine license so we can carry all of our products for all the customers. Any questions we can all answer? Shoot away.
Great. Fellow commissioners, go right ahead.
Yes, I have a question. So you're bringing the license from San Mateo City, correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Have you considered, or is there somebody out there that's willing to do a three-way trade-off? Somebody that wants to move to San Mateo from El Cajon, take that license, and you would take their license?
Have not considered that. It's probably going to depend on what San Mateo's ordinances are. They probably wouldn't do that if San Mateo's not as restrictive as El Cajon at this point in time.
Okay.
Commissioner Valles, you had a question?
So what are your hours of operation that you're planning on for this particular site?
We're all the stores in California are open 9 to 9, 7 days a week, and close a good select group of holidays.
Question, would you guys consider continuing to try to find a license and purchasing it after the store is up and running? Have you guys thought about that at all?
Absolutely. We keep that high on our agenda. I meet with our liquor license consultant, once or twice a month, and I've instructed them that if we're granted a license to transfer in, that we will continue to look for a license in the census tract or in the city of El Cajon, and we'll just make that one effective for this location and transfer the San Mateo one out.
Great. Okay. Any other questions? Any questions? No? Okay, great. We appreciate you guys being here. We are desperately in need of supermarkets and grocery stores, so we're excited, and I know my kids are ecstatic. They go up to San Carlos right now to buy groceries, and they live in Lakeside, so.
Probably hitting that Aldi Finds aisle pretty hard would be my guess.
Yeah, they love it. They love it. I didn't know anything about Aldi until they started shopping there, and they just absolutely love it. So, and they're on a fixed budget, so it's a big deal to them.
Thank you much.
I came up with a question.
Yeah.
Regarding shoplifting or homeless people coming into the store. Do you have a policy how you would handle somebody that comes into the store, obviously intoxicated, or they're shoplifting or anything of that sort? How would you handle that type of situation?
Oh, absolutely. We'll follow our store procedures, and all of them are to address those situations as soon as they come about.
You just don't let them walk out? You try to
We're
stop
going
them?
to attempt our best to escort them out.
Pardon me?
We're going to attempt our best to escort them out, and if it needs to be escalated, we'll have to escalate it.
Okay.
Another question. You mentioned you do not sell single cans, 40 ounces, any of that stuff. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And no plans in the future to do so?
No,
Okay.
not that I'm aware of. The program's been in place for a number of years now,
Yeah.
and we have not gone that direction.
Okay, great.
I do have an additional question. So how are your checkout stands going to be? Will they all be manned, or are you going to have any of the self-check where people check themselves out and then can leave?
Well, interesting enough, self-checkout's coming. Noah, Patrick, can you pull that up for me one more time? Get the floor layout. Yep. Show you exactly where it is. Any chance you can blow that up a little bit or no? Okay. Perfect. All right, so you see the entry is down at the bottom of the page.
Okay.
Folks shop the store, and they end up at the front section there, where you see the 4 bays of check lanes together. That's the self-checkout. On either side of those is a dual cashier stand, and those 2 dual cashier stands are in charge of that self-checkout area there as well.
Great. And obviously in California, you can't self-check out if you're buying alcohol.
You can't self-check
right?
out
It just-
right, alcohol. That's correct.
Right, that's right. I don't even think it allows you to scan it in California.
Yeah, it won't even. I don't think it even scanned at self-checkout.
Actually, I can tell you how that works at Vaughn's. It does allow you to scan it, but it alerts and somebody has to come over and check your ID.
Right. Yeah, the front end manager comes up and
Right.
does their key code or whatever. That's what I've seen anyway.
The Albertsons tells you to go to the regular line, which is interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
For both. Before in that location, there was an Albertsons, and I assume that Albertsons did have a liquor license.
This was Office Depot.
Office Depot.
I know, but many years ago, there was an Albertsons at the end of there. Many years ago. Wow. There was a grocery store there, but it turned into Best Buy. So I just was curious if they knew.
Is your microphone on?
Oh, probably not. Yeah, it is on. Maybe I need to be louder. But yeah, I remember many years ago. I've been here for 25 years, but there used to be an Albertsons, and I believe there was a liquor license there. So I don't know. They probably released it to somewhere else, but there has been in that area before.
Yeah, staff didn't look into historical licenses. We
Yeah.
just have the data for the current licenses.
Okay, great. Great. Any other questions? Okay, is there any other speaker cards?
I do have Patrick and Douglas.
Oh, we're good?
Okay.
All good?
Fantastic.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, no other speaker cards. At this time, I'll make a motion to close public hearing.
I second it.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Moreau, seconded by Commissioner Sotile. Please vote. All right.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right. Well, fellow commissioners, love to hear your thoughts.
So I have some thoughts regarding Parkway Plaza and the regional shopping center. We're talking right now about off-sale alcohol licenses, but let's talk for a moment about on-sale alcohol licenses. We ran into the same issue with a number of restaurants in Parkway Plaza. It's an overconcentration, but we allowed them because it's a regional shopping center, and many people drive many miles just to go to Parkway Plaza. So I wonder if we might consider the same thing for the site of Parkway Plaza with the off-sale licenses, especially since this isn't a bar, this isn't a restaurant that's sending people out the door having had alcohol, but carrying alcohol in bottles and cans. As far as the regional site goes, I don't see any issue with one more grocery store that actually has beer and wine in it.
Yeah.
The big sticky point is the condition of approval was to take an overconcentrated license out of the city, or at least move it from one overconcentrated area into another, so we're not adding a license to the city. And if we're pulling it from San Mateo, we're actually adding a license
Yeah.
to the city.
Yeah. You know, I was thinking the same thing, and one of the things that is different, you know, Aldi is a corporation of considerable size, and you know, I don't know how we would do it, but I would like to get some follow-ups, and if he mentioned that they will continue looking for a license, I wouldn't see it being an issue financially for them to, when one does come available. We know when one comes available, we know it's going to be expensive. Let's start there. Whether it's a 21 or a 20. And if they're willing to continue to scour and look until that first one comes available in the city and grab it and retire it, I would be comfortable, you know, moving forward on this. Especially if it was a type 21 and we could get rid of a 21 for a 20 again. It is a corporation with higher standards in place. There is definitely a need for a grocery outlet. We are lacking in grocery stores. When Vaughn's went down on 2nd Street, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
That was a big deal for a lot of people in that area. I mean, where do they go? You know, I mean, I like Smart and Final, but it's a bulk store. I don't have a problem with some of the Walmarts, but again, it's different quality. And there's really no service in that area for a store. And my biggest thing is looking forward. If we get a redevelopment of Parkway Plaza, we know there's going to be some mixed use there. And they're going to need to be able to shop as well. And so
They don't have to leave to go somewhere else. They can just get a one-stop shop and get everything done. And they are very cost-effective in comparison to a lot of the things in the area.
yeah.
Won't mention names, but they are.
Sure.
Commissioner Rose, let me see
Yeah.
if I understand you correctly. What you're suggesting is to going against the commissioner's decision, or going with the commissioner's decision with leaving it open in case they find a license elsewhere. Am I stating that correctly? Or?
Yeah, what I would like, if we are willing to grant the Type 20, I would want them to continually, I would want them to continue until they find a license, whether it takes 6 months, a year, 2 years, to be the first one on the radar to retire a license.
But once you have the approval and you're selling alcohol, what's the incentive to go and find another license?
That's a great point. I don't know if that's something we can put in, you know, maybe like a 6-month review, find out, you know, and I do agree with that. I don't know if that's possible, staff, if we're able to do that.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I could interject, I think the nuance in the discussion here is that tonight we're talking about an appeal of the director's determination. So the focus of this discussion tonight is solely on those factors that we described in the presentation and staff report, which is it an over-concentrated census tract, and is it in a high crime area? So I understand the merits of the discussion that the Commission's having as it relates to, you know, having more opportunities for off-sale licenses in a regional setting. But the issue is that that's not the code that we have in place right now. So the City Council, as the legislative body, has established that code section and those criteria. And so the specific question that we have to look at tonight are those two factors of overconcentration and crime as it relates to the director's determination. So if the Commission were to be of the mind that there is merit to changing the code, that's not on the table for tonight because it hasn't been docketed or agendized to have that happen. So ultimately, if this were to be denied by the Planning Commission, it's my understanding that the applicant would be interested in appealing that to the City Council. Mm-hmm. So at that hearing, the City Council would have that opportunity to look at that and provide direction to staff. So at the same time, so if the Planning Commission is interested in providing an opinion on that type of change. If you were to deny this request tonight, you could also provide direction to staff that if this is appealed to the City Council, to provide some additional background about the Commission's feelings about regional serving alcohol outlets at the mall.
Okay. Next question I have, and this might be for Barbara. The resolution that we have is we either deny or not deny the appeal of the community development. So in other words, what we're voting on tonight, just so I'm clear, it says move to adopt the next resolution or denying the appeal. That's either an up or down vote.
Yes.
So just so I understand, so if we don't adopt that resolution and we don't we don't deny the appeal, what does that mean?
Well, that would mean, backing up a little bit, a liquor license is a property right. It's an interest, a very expensive interest in property. And if one applicant is given that property and another denied it, that's a violation of due process. So keep in mind that if you were to overrule the director's decision, that it would open the door for others in the area.
So if
I
there's not enough votes to deny, does their appeal carry, is I guess my question. Does that make sense? So
Yes, but again, I'll remind you, you need to make findings for that.
okay, that was my question just when it came to the voting. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I add just
Yeah.
one more thing to that? Sorry. And so in relation to your question about an alternative resolution, if you wanted to grant the appeal, you would have to make findings in the positive. So you'd have to make a finding that the census tract is not over-concentrated and that there's not a high crime rate in the area. So there would have to be alternative findings.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
Regarding that, because he says it's the area is it's too dense for the area, but is that population-wise, that's mostly commercial and businesses, so how is that basis in opposed to other areas where there are more residential housing, where this area is basically mostly commercial resident, businesses, and you've got the whole, airfield and everything, so how do they justify the amount that they could use when you're using an area that's not really populated by residents, it's more of a commercial zone?
Parkway Plaza and whatnot.
Yeah.
I would acknowledge that I understand your point and that it is not a highly populated area, and that's why there's not a lot of capacity for licenses that are there. And obviously many licenses were granted over time in the past prior to the regulations that we have now because of that fact, because it's an easily accessible area that's, right off the freeway with a lot of regional serving commercial uses. But really it's from the staff perspective and the director's determination perspective, we're stuck between kind of a rock and a hard place in that the code right now says that we don't want to add more. And really the answer to the question is if the commission and or the city council in the future wants to add more, they need to give direction to change that code and bring that back through the planning commission and city council and have them approve that. So just to take that one step further, if that direction was given to staff to change the code, and then Aldi in the future could come back and separately, depending on what the code says, apply for a new public convenience or necessity finding, and that could be granted by the director without having to come back through a hearing at the planning commission.
Okay.
Yeah.
The director's decision, I find it very compelling. As Noah Alvey has stated, the code is, it's pure. It says what it says. At the same time, to deny the denying here, we'd be doing gymnastics with the code. And that means we're twisting the code to say something that it doesn't say, that because of this and this and this and that, we're making all kinds of excuses. And I think that opens up the door for, like Barbara stated, to other issues that we may have coming before us. And I think we're treading on very precarious ground right now. And I think, like staff has stated, the only people who are authorized to make the change in the code and the zoning is the city council. It's beyond our scope to make that decision. However, we could make a decision and say, well, we recommend that the city council change the code. In my mind, doing that, we're coming to a slippery slope.
Well, sure.
Where do we draw the line?
Right, sure.
Yeah.
I agree. The city council also, they can appeal to city council, and city council can do the same thing that we're sitting here thinking about doing tonight, whether we agree with the denial or not. That's I guarantee you that the changing of the code will take time. You know, my concern is this: we've got a situation where prior to 2013. Off-sale licenses were handed out like candy. Okay, I get it. The bad actors have ruined it for the good actors, like an Aldi. And my goal is, as far as findings go, is to get grocery stores here for the public to have a place to shop. I mean, I don't need to see any more findings in the fact that we need more grocery stores here, in my opinion. I don't also know that the appeal process is to allow us to make a decision outside of the code, because the code is a code, like you said, and it is very rigid. And there may be times once in a while where we need to make an exception. We're not talking a convenience store here. We're talking about a chain of 2,000 stores that wants to continue to develop. And so I have to look at it a little bit differently from that standpoint. Just because we give out these on-sale licenses with zero regard for whatever reason. There's not a problem with the on-sale. There never is. I thought a lot about this, and when he mentioned that they weren't selling single cans, which every other place is, every gas station, every 7-Eleven, this is ancillary. 4% is ancillary to people going to a grocery store, and I want them to succeed. And I know this is part of their model, so I am torn, just like everybody else here. I'm torn because I feel like they're being penalized for the problems of the past before 2013. And it's obvious that they're not here to peddle alcohol. They're here to serve the community with a grocery store. I mean, that's a big difference to me. And if they're willing to maybe even come back and give us an update on what they've found in every 6 months, until they find something, I would be willing to consider it. But I don't want to paint them with such a broad brush either. That's why we have an appeals. Why even have appeals? Why not just say the code is the code and you're stuck? I mean, there is a purpose to that. Commissioner Velez?
Yeah, as I look at kind of the big four, again, we won't say names, but the big four stores, I mean, to me, 2 of them are department stores that happen to add some groceries into them. I've been in one of them that's located there in Parkway Plaza, and almost every time I'm there, shoplifting happens. Flagrant. They don't even try to hide it. You'll see somebody pick up a bag of chips, start eating it in the store, and then just put the thing in, put the empty bag at the checkout and just walk out. I've watched people. That's why I asked about the self-check. I've been in a few stores that have put those self-checkouts, and I've seen people's things beep, and the person who's manning it, kind of overseeing all of them, kind of goes over and punches in their code, whatever it is, while the person's bagging up the groceries. And as they turn around and walk away, they walk out. And I watched one guy go, wait, did that person just walk out? They didn't even pay, with bags full of groceries. And I think that in some of these stores that they're so big and they're so kind of walled off that it's hard to even get a visual. The way that we were shown in the plans, I kind of like the fact that the self-check is nestled in between some manned stations. And even if, you have the 2, if I remember correctly, it was 2 manned stations, a self-check, and then another manned station. So even if you didn't have that other one manned, you have people between the door and the self-check. So, and it's open. I've been inside those stores. you don't have really high aisles. I mean, it just is more open in the way it's laid out. It's not like where people can be hiding in the aisles. I mean, I've seen people drinking. I mean, I've seen a lot of things in stores. I've lived in El Cajon a long time, too. And it is nice if you can go into it. I mean, this is the kind of store I would feel comfortable taking my grandkids in. I've been to the one even up in Ramona. You get a couple of items. I'm not usually buying alcohol if I'm with them, but if I wanted to buy a bottle of wine or something, that you could. And you feel safe taking your kids in the store because you can have eyes on them and eyes on your surroundings. So I agree, that's the kind of store you want to bring into your community. I mean, there is a Walmart marketplace that's on Second, but I don't like to, I go to the Sprouts, but you don't really like to get out of your car. You get panhandled like crazy, even though they're not supposed to do that. So, but I know that we're looking at this other development, potentially in Parkway. I know that's not necessarily the question before us, but when I think about the crime issue, what they presented could actually help prevent. And they're setting up their store where there wouldn't be as much crime for their store. The other stores that are not doing the prevention is hurting a store that has a layout that already lends itself to not have that. And I also think that the people that are going in there, I don't want to be stereotypical, but you're looking for very specific things. It's families that are buying family-size items. It would be hard for a small family to go into a Smart and Final, and now they've got to buy a month's worth of something when they're living week to week with their paychecks. So I think there's a lot of things for us to look at if we're trying to make the exception. I don't know how it really deals with the over-concentration other than like what Commissioner Pollack-Rude said. You're in an area that's concentrated with businesses. So is it unfairly being charged with over-concentration because of that, as opposed to if you looked at a more rural, I don't know if we have really a rural area, but I don't know. I think I was throwing a lot of stuff out there. But when I think about crime, I just think about the way their store's laid out. They're not going to add to the crime as far as shoplifting. And I don't think people go into an Aldi to get a bottle of wine and down it in the parking lot and then, go out and do something else.
Sure.
So that's just my thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, can I add to that?
Yeah.
Just for 1 second. I would say that if we've spoken with Aldi about, looking at finding a location or a license elsewhere in the city to transfer to this location, we had not ruled that out. If they were to find one that was located elsewhere in the city and propose to relocate it to the current location, we would evaluate that in conjunction with the police department and looking at their. Obviously, they have a very robust, crime deterrence process with security cameras and other things that they have in place. The crime reporting is part of the findings and part of the facts that we presented tonight, but I wouldn't necessarily identify that as something that would be a factor for denial if they were to find a license elsewhere in the city to relocate. And then the city attorney wanted to add one additional item.
Yes, as I mentioned about due process, if we allow this because this is a store we like down the road, we wouldn't be able to claim that we gave everyone due process because a liquor license is a property right. And if we give it to one store because we think it's a better store and deny it to another one, we're denying that other store's due process. So we're kind of stuck between the law here and our own municipal code. And the only way that's going to change is if the municipal code can be changed.
So if we change the municipal code and we say anyone that has a store that's over 15,000 square feet gets a license and anyone underneath, are we also picking winners and losers that way too?
That would be something that would be worked out at the time
right.
between the staff and
Okay.
and the decision makers. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so with the new policy, if a new policy or a new ordinance were to be adopted by the city council that had those additional exceptions, kind of like the commission in the discussion alluded to earlier, where the process for on-sale alcohol at the mall was changed, this would just be another process change. So, if the commission believes that is appropriate in this instance, that's something that could be conveyed by a motion maker to say that there's interest in providing more flexibility to the code in the future. But again, the narrow focus of the discussion this evening is really focused on those two factors that the director used to make the determination, which is it an over-concentrated census tract, and does it have that high crime rate?
So basically, kind of what you read earlier, because I know that we're kind of going around in circles, but it meets the requirements to allow something to be moved here, but because of the high crime rate and the density, those two factors is a no for right now. It would have to be changed. And then if we did it for one, then we would particularly have to do it for another, which it's a slippery slope, I understand.
Yeah, I remember in, I think it was 2014 or 2015, shortly after this deemed approved ordinance went in, we had that gas station open up. And the gas station was fine, but they wanted a liquor license because all the gas stations nearby had liquor licenses. And we said, no, we already have an overconcentration. They already had their licenses. And I don't remember what happened to the business, but we told them that they couldn't. Sure. That wasn't on the books.
They're still in business.
They're still in business?
Yeah.
I recognize that Aldi has a very specific model, and hopefully before the store opens, I mean, it's still under construction.
Yeah.
Before the store opens, hopefully somebody will lose a license and say, hey, we're willing to sell. But I don't think we can make the findings that this is not a high crime rate or that it is under-concentrated without the city council allowing for Parkway Plaza as a regional shopping center being a special zone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's what's interesting. It says here that we cannot find by the director's determination that public convenience or necessity would not be served. So I don't see anything in here. I mean, I know we talk about crime rate, but what they're saying is in order for this to be approved, we would have to find it as a public convenience or necessity. Is that what I'm understanding? And so it's a supermarket.
Mm-hmm.
Public convenience.
And so it's a public convenience.
And a necessity.
And it's somewhat of a necessity. I'm not trying to bust the city wide open. I am trying to bring business into this city that is a good business to have. And I'm not looking at it just from a business. I'm looking at it from a, why don't we have a Trader Joe's? Why don't we have an Aldi? Mm-hmm. Is it because we gave 87 licenses in 1999 to a bunch of liquor stores, and now we're just reaping the problem? We haven't had and let's be honest, you guys, we haven't had a sale for a license. It's going to take them years to find one.
Yeah.
It's going to take them years. Mm-hmm. And so then we just say Aldi just runs different ads in El Cajon, and they don't do wine sales in El Cajon. They just have to have, you just have to go to a different store. So is that convenient? I'm just trying to look at this differently. We've come across this for almost 10 years. And I'm just saying that every now and then I think we might need to just think a little bit outside the box, just because we're trying to bring in good, clean business. And my thoughts are, if people are buying beer and wine from there, maybe they won't buy it from the liquor store down the street. Yeah. And maybe it'll make it harder for other businesses at that point to continue operating businesses that are not above board, in so many other ways. That's just kind of my concern.
I'm assuming whether Aldi gets the license to sell beer and wine, they're still going to have a store there, correct? Right. So it still meets the convenience and necessity for customers unless they want to buy alcohol.
Correct.
But have to drive somewhere else.
Yeah, have to drive someplace else, yeah. Which is more important, maintaining the code or allowing people to buy the alcohol?
Right.
I mean, you got to weigh that? What is the most important?
Sure, and look, let's be real. It's not about the alcohol. The alcohol can be bought at Walmart. They can ride their bike across the street to Smart and Final. They can go around the corner to the liquor store. It's really, it's just an unfortunate situation because we're not going to see a difference in crime based on this.
No.
This is not, Walmart's right there. And like you said, Walmart, have you walked in that store? It's a free-for-all in that place, inside and out. And so I would rather see a good player be rewarded, and maybe it would convince other people to either follow suit or, not continue their operations.
Well, even looking at their model, the amount of space dedicated to alcohol is so small that, like you said, the chances that somebody's going in there just to buy alcohol is really slim, because the selection is very limited unless there's that one bottle that you can only get there. I mean, chances are if somebody's going there to get a bunch of beer to go to a party, they're probably going, no offense, but they're probably going somewhere else, probably to the Smart and Final and get all the chips and all the other stuff to, to buy larger volumes of it. So it is more somebody who's buying their food for a meal, and a bottle of wine to go with it, or a small amount of alcohol, to go with it. So that's also compelling, that that's not the main crux of what they're trying to do. It's not the alcohol bringing somebody in and then, we have this other stuff too.
Yeah.
I get that's also not what we're trying to.
Sure. Well, I mean, at the end of the day,
think of it.
we're here to either adopt the next resolution in order denying the appeal, and that is either going to be an up or down vote. And from what staff explained to us, if I'm correct, is if that motion does not carry, then the appeal goes through. Is that correct? In other words, they don't have to appeal to City Council if we do not support the appeal, is what I'm getting at. Or if we do not support the denial, it basically
If we
grants
approve
it.
the denial, then they would have to appeal to the city council.
If we don't approve the denial,
If we don't approve the denial, I'm not sure what happens
that's
next.
what I'm kind of getting at.
Then you have to have findings for why you
Didn't approve the denial.
didn't approve the denial, didn't uphold the denial.
Right.
And the findings can't be that one store is better than another store.
Right, but the denial was based on convenience or necessity. So if we find convenience and necessity, is that a finding?
Well,
I think I would add is that when you look at, for the finding of public convenience and necessity, the questions that have to be answered are that over-concentration of the census tract aspect of things, and then the transfer of a license from elsewhere in the city to the subject site. I've had these conversations with Aldi and explained to them, that ultimately, if they disagree with what the code says, and if the commission doesn't like what the code says, the best path forward is to provide that recommendation to the city council in conjunction with an appeal, so that if there's a denial tonight based on those specific findings, and then Aldi appeals, and then the commission could articulate their desire to to add flexibility to the code, like you've been talking about, which is we're stuck right now because the code is so restrictive. We want to add flexibility. So if you articulate that flexibility that you want to add to the code to allow regional serving, grocery stores to have an opportunity to locate in over-concentrated census tracts, in conjunction with the presentation to the City Council on the appeal, I would be able to provide that recommendation to the City Council, and then they could ultimately make that policy decision and provide direction to staff. And then if we get that direction and we make that change to the code, obviously it would come back to the Planning Commission for review and approval, but then we still remain with a defined process and findings of looking at these specific criteria for every one of these establishments so that they're all treated equally and fairly. And as Barb indicated, we're not looking at them on a case-by-case basis saying, well, this one seems like it's okay, but I don't know about this one.
So you're saying, like, if another store, is it okay for me to ask you a question?
Yeah, please do.
If there was another store that wanted to go in on the other side, because something else, another grocery type store, and had a license from out of the county, because that would be the same kind of scenario that they're bringing in, but it's within Parkway Plaza, and we're saying that this is kind of a regional center. They would be treated this way, as opposed to a store down on Mollison just wanting to open.
Yeah, I mean, it would depend on the language in the code and the ultimate direction from the City Council, but essentially that's what I've heard the Commission discussing tonight, which is let's figure out a way to add flexibility to the code, and then let's figure out a way to have the mall, being the regional serving shopping district, be able to have that flexibility. So, but ultimately, we get direction from council. We would have to notice a public hearing to change the code. That would come back to the Planning Commission for review, and then on to City Council for a recommendation. We do have our annual omnibus zoning code update that we do, and so and talking with Aldi on their timelines and expectations. I said if there's an opportunity and council gives us direction, we will do everything we can to expedite that, because we have a strong focus on economic development, bringing new resources into the city and that are going to be providing services that are needed as the commission's articulated as it relates to bonds, closing down, and other things. So it's not that this process is going to take, a year or 2 years. It'll be at the forefront of staff's efforts on making code changes.
So real quick, though, if we like the code, but every now and then we need to make an exception, but we like the code as it is, I don't want to have a double-edged sword here where we change the code and then we end up with something worse than we have now.
Well, no, I think if we made 2 broad changes to the code that are very specific, but they're broad across the city. We like grocery stores. I don't mind grocery stores having a beer and wine aisle. I don't like liquor stores. I said it. We've got plenty. But if we allowed for more Type 20 licenses in grocery stores based on square feet anywhere in the city, if the capacity was there, and if we changed the Parkway Plaza Regional Center into a special zone where we can over-concentrate because there are no people living there, but everybody shops there, then that would make it fair for every applicant who comes before the city and says, hey, we've got this proposal, we follow the criteria, we follow the plan, and it could be approved. Whereas right now, we can't just say, oh, it's not over-concentrated, it's not in a high crime rate.
So would over-concentration and crime rate still come into play if we change the code?
I mean, ultimately, it would depend on the changes. So the changes would come back to the Planning Commission for review and approval. But what I'm hearing the Commission say is that they would want to see potentially a change to the code that said over-concentration wouldn't come into play. And similarly, like we talked about earlier, as it relates to crime, we would look at the specific crime measures that the applicant is proposing in conjunction with their request. The police department would evaluate that and provide a recommendation.
Also, there is a large apartment complex on the south side of Walmart, on the other side of where the drainage ditch is, a very large complex.
Yeah.
And also we have discussed in allowing Parkway Plaza and to develop into condominiums and using part of that parking lot. So there is a possibility that residential housing will come into being at Parkway Plaza.
And then
It's already been approved.
Correct. And then that would be more convenient to have something right there because they could just walk there and then walk home.
But then again, on Fessler Street, across the street, there's a high volume of homelessness and encampment there.
Yeah.
Which, usually homeless people to panhandle, they need a population to panhandle with, And that's like across the street from Parkway Plaza, on the other side of Fletcher Parkway.
Yep.
And it's kind of to add regarding because I know we discussed the crime rate of this whole thing, but it'd be nice to see what specifically the crimes are, whether they're alcohol related or they're just, stealing half the clothes from Walmart or what type of crimes in the area, and see if this alcohol is really going to make any difference of what's happening in the area. I mean, you do have a mall, so there's going to be a high crime rate there anyway because people are going to go there and shoplift on a daily basis, alcohol or not. So.
Yeah, and those are 2-year-old statistics, and we don't have any real drill-down data, which we would need to get.
Yeah.
So, I mean, by 2024, it sounds like we'll have this year's information, which won't really do us any good.
Do we know how this would affect the transfer of the license from San Mateo if the denial is upheld tonight, even pending recommendations? I know that part of what they're looking to do is to transfer a license. Does that end up going? Do they lose that opportunity?
I think the issue is that I can't speculate on the future action of the council or the commission. So, I mean, you would have the opportunity to look at the new. So, if council gave us direction to change the code, staff would evaluate it and make a recommendation back to the planning commission. And at that hearing, you could look at the context of the current request to relocate from San Mateo and see how that aligns with the ultimate recommendation for the change to the code. But I would say staff would keep that at forefront of mind when looking at what we want to do to create a better regional serving opportunity for off-sale alcohol outlets when developing the code.
And in the meantime, some small liquor store, the person wants to retire because their kids don't want to take over the business and they're willing to sell the license, then none of this really matters for them, right? They could just purchase that license and do what they need to do.
Yes, they could purchase a license from an overconcentrated tract, as it's indicated in the code, and then they could reapply for the public convenience and necessity finding, and then the director would reevaluate that, and in conjunction with a recommendation from the police department, make a decision.
Okay. Any other questions? I mean, the way I see it right now is we've got, would we, when we have this resolution and when we vote on this resolution, after this vote, we can so move to make another resolution or give instruction based on the outcome of the vote?
I think what I would, based on what I've heard the commission discussing, the staff recommendation would be to adopt the resolution denying the appeal, but to provide direction to staff that if this is appealed to the city council, that for staff to convey that the planning commission is interested in providing additional flexibility to the off-sale alcohol regulations in order to allow grocery stores in the regional commercial setting to have more flexibility.
Gotcha. Okay.
Shall I make a motion?
Yeah. Any other deliberation? I'm a little torn, you guys, because I think this is great that we want to move forward and maybe change the code. But I kind of would like to see Aldi get their store up and running the way that it should be. And so that does trouble me because I don't know how long that's going to take, and it still doesn't guarantee anything. My other issue is that I've got a big store here, and I want to attract more. And if they're mired in bureaucracy for the next 6 months or a year, they're going to go somewhere else. I mean, Santee is booming. And so I do want to keep that in consideration. You know, if we decide that we want to change the code, I think that's great. But I'm not too sure. I mean, for me, I'm definitely in favor of letting Aldi move forward, and then whatever code we want to change and stuff, that's great. We can bring that up and do that. That's going to be going back and forth between us and City Council. My other concern is that this will probably get to City Council, and it will probably get approved anyways because City Council is trying to create an environment of grocery stores and that we're open for business. And so,
well, can we do both? Can we deny the denial and make recommendations
I think
to
that's
have the
I don't see
code
why we couldn't.
changed?
I think we've gone back and forth, and we have to have the findings, and there are 5 findings, 2 of which are the overconcentration and the high crime rate. We can't change those 2 findings. It's already public convenience and necessity. Yes, this would be great. We want to see the store there. It fits the general code, commercial, regional. It's by right, CEQA exempt. But because of the high crime rate and because of the overconcentration, we do not have the findings to overturn the appeal or overturn the director's decision. But what we can do is convey to the city council and to staff, or through staff to the city council, that we are all in a bind here. We don't have the tools we need to approve a store like this with its alcohol license intact. That's what we want. I don't think any of us want to deny this store in Parkway Plaza.
Correct.
But as the code stands, which the city council put in place, we cannot do that.
So let's read the required findings. The proposed establishment meets the location requirements of section 17.210.090. The proposed alcoholic beverage sales activity will not aggravate existing problems in the neighborhood. And I think we talked about that, and we agree that probably would not, such as loitering, public drunkenness. The proposed establishment will not detrimentally affect nearby neighborhoods. It's not really near neighborhoods. of the alcohol establishment, residential buildings, schools, park, playgrounds, or recreational areas, nonprofit youth facilities, places of worship, hospitals, alcohol or drug abuse centers. And the proposed establishment is located in a census tract, which you were referring to, with the capacity for additional off-sale licenses as identified by the ABC with low average. So you've got 4 findings, and what you're saying is finding D is the one.
That we're stuck on. Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I can just add
Yeah.
one more thing, too, is that we do have other alcohol license requests that are in the pipeline and that are under review. And so looking at those findings, that's where we want to make sure that we're consistent as it relates to those findings.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think at this point, Commissioners, I think Commissioner Sotile has it. We just need to make a motion, and you're either going to support the denial or you're not going to support the denial, and that's the beauty of a commission.
Yeah.
Do I hear a motion?
Sure. I move to adopt the next resolution in order denying the appeal of the community development with a caveat that it will be appealed to the city council for a possible zone change with all that has been discussed here today, which Noah Alvey, I think he will make it known, the discussion that we had here this evening.
And is it fine to put that in that resolution? Okay.
Yes.
All right, do I have a second?
I will second.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Sotile, seconded by Commissioner Circo. Please vote. Okay, and the denial goes on, and you now will go to City Council for an appeal, if you so choose so.
You know we want you here.
All right,
Hard
so-
decision.
Agenda, you bet. Thank you for being here. Agenda item number 3 is a 7-Eleven off-sale alcohol sales continuance. It's alcohol sales for Type 20 license. It is CEQA exempt, and they want to continue to October 18th. Staff?
Yes. So on September 27th, staff did receive a request for a continuance from the applicant's representative. They asked for a 2-week continuance to a date certain due to health issues from their project team. Staff had no objections to that continuance. So staff's recommending continuance to a date certain of October 18th. The continuance to a date certain just means that we will not renotice the public hearing. And then if it's continued, we would have the public hearing on October 18th.
All right.
Perfect, okay. So that gets continued. We don't need to, do we need to?
We need to
continue.
continue.
We need a motion to continue the public hearing to a date certain of October 18th.
You got it. All right, I make a motion to continue to a date of certain, October 18th.
I'll second.
All right. Motion made by Commissioner Moreau, seconded by Commissioner Baez. Please vote. Okay.
And motion carries by unanimous vote.
Great. Agenda item number 4 is an amendment of the zoning code, lodging establishments, which we talked about last meeting. It is CEQA exempt, and we want to continue this one to a date uncertain.
Yes. So for this item, it was on September 20th that the Planning Commission adopted the resolution of intention. Later that following week, the City Council also docketed a discussion, and they received a report on the county's motel voucher program on September 27th. So during the City Council's discussion, they actually appointed a City Council subcommittee of Council Members Goebel and Ortiz, and the subcommittee is intended to assist in drafting new policy and regulations as it relates to the use of homeless vouchers, and then present them back to Council for consideration and give that direction back to staff. So since Council took that direction, we're recommending that you continue this hearing to a date uncertain. So again, the difference between a date uncertain and a date certain. Since it's uncertain, that means we will send out a new public hearing notice after we receive direction from City Council, and then we will return to the Planning Commission if needed based on Council's direction.
Right? Okay. All right. I'll make a motion to continue to a date uncertain.
I second it.
All right. Motion made by Commissioner Moreau, seconded by Commissioner Sotile. Please vote. All right. At this time, staff, do you have some other items for consideration? or
I
communication?
do. One additional item for consideration. October is Community Planning Month, and staff is going to bring forward a proclamation as it relates to Community Planning Month at the next City Council meeting on October 11th. So I wanted to invite all of the Planning Commission to come be in attendance and be acknowledged for your hard work in front of the City Council. So if you're able to join at the 3 p.m. council meeting next Tuesday, that would be great. If you can't, that's fine as well. So just let me know so we can acknowledge you and your hard work.
Great. All right. Awesome. Everyone going to be here?
3 p.m. next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday, 3 p.m. Excellent. Anything for staff? Okay. Well, do I have a motion to adjourn? Or did I just make the motion to adjourn?
Make the motion to adjourn, and I'll second it.
All right. I made the motion to adjourn. Commissioner Polgarud seconded it. And we're set.
Commissioner Sotila, can you vote, please?
One quick question for staff real quick. Will the message conveyed tonight regarding that, how does that actually get to City Council? And what do we need to come here as public comment and talk a little bit about that? Or is it pretty much clear what we were asking for, do you think?
I'd be happy to. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, our offices will probably work together on a draft the way we do every year for the omnibus update, and
Okay.
we'll just add that into the mix.
Okay. Great. Thank you. All right. And meeting is adjourned.